Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and tonight my co-host is Sherry Kachanis, and my guest I'm really pleased to present is Miss Patricia Mellman. She wears many hats, as she's an astrologer, she does Reiki, and she does tarot, amongst as well as being a medium serving churches. So I introduce you now to our panel.
Thank you, Josie. It's lovely to be here this evening.
Nice to see you, Pat.
Nice to see you too, Jerry.
So there are many questions I have about astrology. I even took a class with you.
Yes, you
and
did.
You were super informative.
You were a very good student, if I recall.
I still had more, to learn, and I know one class is not, it was a series of classes,
Yes.
but I don't know if it was 3 or 4, but
It's really a lifetime learning experience with astrology, because it's always more to learn, more to study, and really intuit a lot of the information as well. Kind of stretch the basic stuff that you're giving in what we call cookbook astrology, which is like, this means this, you want to stretch it more and put your own intuition in and your own feeling. And the more you work with the energy of the planets, the more it's unfolded to you.
Yeah. I know that we've talked about the sun signs. What I was hoping we could talk about tonight would be something interesting like the ascendant sign.
That's a wonderful suggestion.
For someone like myself who's an Aquarius, the ascendant can be more important than the Aquarian energy.
The ascendant is very important because the astrological wheel is set up in 12 pieces or 12 areas, and the ascendant is the first house, or how we project ourselves. How, when you first meet somebody, what you're really meeting is not the sun, but you're meeting the ascendant, or the face I want you to see. That's the ascending sign.
Okay, now that makes sense. You just clicked all those dots.
And it's also called the rising, ascendant or rising sign. And the rising sign is really set by your exact time of birth. So if the closer you're born to sunrise, and in your case, Aquarius, if you were born at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., whenever the sun was actually rising on that particular day, if you were born at the rising time when the sun was rising, you'd have the same sign and the same ascendant. So you'd be a double Aquarius.
It would be double.
So we'd go from 6 a.m. and then in 2-hour increments we move through the zodiac. So if it's Aquarius starting at 6 a.m., 8 a.m. would be Pisces, 10 a.m. would be Aries, 12 p.m. would be Taurus, and so forth.
Yeah, and I wound up with the Cancer.
Cancer ascendant.
Ascendant, and that coordinated very well with my job choices and everything.
Definitely.
And the Aquarius. I'm supposed to be a social worker.
Because Aquarians are all about the large whole of humanity, the mass consciousness, if you will, and altruistically giving to anyone that needs it.
And it could be given in any way, shape, or form, depending upon your ascendant.
Yes.
It might be somebody there that would be a perfect landscape architect, a builder, but, given a different sign.
Exactly. Now, the Cancer ascendant, of course, is the nurturer of the zodiac, the mother, ruled by the moon, and the mother's energy. So anybody with the Cancer ascendant is extremely sensitive, intuitive, extremely intuitive, and very nurturing of everybody that they meet or are close to. So often when you're a Cancer ascendant, you're close to somebody, you're going to nurture and help them and, be motherly toward them. And I know those qualities are true of you, Josie.
Yeah, well, in my life, I've had to learn the boundaries of mothering.
Right.
That it's not appropriate for everyone and everything.
Not everybody wants it.
No.
So the ascendant sign also is, it's how our physical body is shaped and how we look physically. That's also our ascending sign. And whatever it's placed, whatever planet would be placed in that first house with the ascendant, it makes it really an important energy. If you have something placed in your first house, you take in consideration the planet that may be placed in the first and conjoin it in with the ascendant.
With the ascendant.
Right.
Oh.
And then anything would be modified that
I'm
would
learning.
be in the first house. It would modify that projection, that outer projection that you're presenting as your. It's sort of like the survival mechanism, to have that ascendant out there to protect the core, which is the sun.
And, I know in my case, being an Aquarian, people can take advantage of me, and it's a nurturer sign too.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I've had to learn a lot
Definitely.
from both of them.
When we look at, would you like me to go through them all through the
Oh,
ascendant?
please,
Okay.
please, so people, because they're not all the same ascendant as me.
Right, exactly.
Or me.
Or you. What time were you born, actually?
1:15 a.m.
1:15 a.m. And your sun sign is?
Sagittarius.
So 6 a.m. Sag would be rising. We'd go backward for you. So Scorpio would be at 4 a.m. 2 a.m. would be Libra. And you said what time?
1:15.
So possibly a Virgo ascendant.
That
Very
sounds correct.
meticulous, very, detailed oriented.
That doesn't sound like me at all.
I think you're being facetious.
I am. I'm glad you caught that.
So if one has an Aries ascendant, this individual is going to be very energized and show their they could be very physically active, because Aries likes to move their energy, and it's Mars ruled. So if you have an Aries ascendant, often you have somebody that can be very impatient. Not always just Aries. I'm impatient, I don't have Aries, but oftentimes you'll have somebody impatient, somebody that's not afraid to go where angels fear to tread. You'll see them very energized. I always tell people with Aries ascendant, it's very important to work out or do something physical for the body, because you've got a lot of energy and you can burn that energy off. Hopefully that's what you. And a lot of redheads actually have Aries ascendant too, because Mars is the ruler. And you see Aries with red hair and Aries ascendant, because that's your physical look. So oftentimes if you see a redhead, sometimes they'll have that Aries ascendant, because it's red planet Mars. And so Taurus, which is very charming because it's ruled by Venus, they're more of a slow-paced energy, if you will, and they come about things very slowly. So when you meet a Taurus, you'll meet somebody who is very charming at the first meeting and kind of, laid back and kind of reserved. When you get to know them more, you will see the parts of Taurus that you often hear about, being the bull, being a little stubborn, not willing to be flexible too much. But they're very charming. They like comfort. So comfort is very important to your Taurians. Gemini are, again, another energized sign. They're ruled by Mercury. So a lot of their, you may meet a Gemini. I always say when Geminis come to me for consultation, if they have a Gemini sun or their ascendant, I know that I have to say to them, let me talk. Because oftentimes, because they are the communicator, they'll often talk a lot through the reading, and I can't, it wastes time. We want to get right to the point. So Gemini is the duality sign, the double sign, or double energy. So oftentimes with Gemini, you have somebody that's very articulate, because they are involved in communication, where their ruler is Mercury, and usually physically thin and high energy. So again, there's another sign that needs to use a lot of working their energy off. Now Cancer, we already talked about a little bit, but let me just say they're very sensitive. And I often tell the Cancer ascendants or the Cancer signs to make sure that they protect themselves, because they're like open a lot of times because of the water energy. They're very open and receptive. And water tends to absorb. So you have a lot of spongy kind of energy with a Cancer ascendant, somebody that's going to help you, but may in turn take on some of that energy as their own when they really shouldn't, somebody else's. Now Leo ascendant, and that's the sun sign. The sun is ruled by Leo. Leo's ruled by the sun, rather. So we have somebody that usually, and when you're looking at the physicality, usually the beautiful mane of hair, the lion's mane. That's what you usually
My
get
daughter.
with Leo. Oh, is she a Leo? They usually have fabulous, fantastic hair. And they're often their sign needs recognition. In general, Leo likes the recognition, and they should, because they're the sun. And of course, the sun warms us, keeps us warm and everything. So your Leo ascendant often will be somebody, they may have some drama or be dramatic in their entrance. You'll often notice them when they come into a room. They make sure they're noticed, and you just notice them because usually they have a regalness. Remember, king of the lion is king of the jungle, and Leo is ruled by the lion. So they usually have a sense of pride and a sense of here I am, everyone. But I love the Leos. They're a lot of fun. And Virgo ascendant, those people are generally slight, small for the most part. My teacher used to say that if you have a Virgo ascendant, you have eternal youth, and you'll always look more youthful than your age. And it's also Mercury ruled. So there again, you have the person that's going to be really good, very observant. When you walk into a room, I'll bet as a Virgo ascendant, you don't miss anything. You may not talk about it, but you see the little things going on in the room, or you'll notice something out of place. And usually very neat, very organized. They like things in good organizational, so they know just where to go get something in the house. Libra ascendant, now that's Venus ruled again. We have Taurus is Venus ruled and Libra is Venus ruled. But the Libra and the Taurus are very different Venus energies. The Libra ascendant is first known, Taurus and Libra both being ruled by Venus, for beauty. So they're usually very beautiful. The Libra ascendant, and this is true of Libra people too, because they're the balancers or the scales in the zodiac, they oftentimes, I shouldn't say always, but oftentimes are the people pleasers of the zodiac, and they always want everybody to be happy. But of course that can't happen. Yes, exactly. I'll be, we'll just, and oftentimes will not give an opinion because they don't want to rock the boat. But the Libra people are always usually very gentle and very accommodating. And the Scorpio ascendant, which is ruled by Pluto, so these individuals are often have a perception, or people will perceive them as being more the observer. You don't really see them out and making contact immediately. They're going to come in and they are going to really feel, because they are water signs, they're going to feel the energy of the room, they're going to size up the situation, and then slowly integrate in. But they're usually very quiet. You don't see them being showy. They kind of will come in and blend. And then when they feel comfortable, because they're water signs, they're going to let you know what's going on. Physically, it's most signs, unless it's a real, like the Aries red hair, usually it's hard physically to tell their signs from the look of them. But some astrologists with really good experience in working just with the ascendant could probably look at somebody and tell. Occasionally I can, but not always. So Sagittarius ascendant, now this is your ball of fire coming into the room. And Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, is really a lot of fun, whether it's your sun in Sag or your ascendant in Sag. They're fun-loving, and they love travel, they love adventure. So your Sagittarius, and the area that Sagittarius rules in the physical body is hips. So I always talk to my Sagittarius about making sure they keep their hips lubricated, working out with the hip area, because they often tend to have hip issues. Sagittarius is the optimist of the zodiac, ruled by the planet Jupiter. So they're usually a lot of fun. They want to have, get going and have a good time and entertain. Capricorn, which is my sun sign but not my ascending sign, they're very, very hard-working individuals, and that's kind of the main thing with Capricorn, that they're going to climb the ladder to success. But they don't slide up, believe me. It's very hard work and diligence and sticking-to-itiveness. So when you see a Capricorn ascendant, oftentimes with Capricorn, or Saturn being the ruler of the first house, you have illness. Sometimes because Saturn is a restrictive energy at times. When you have Saturn in your first house or Saturn on the ascendant, usually the person will have a childhood illness of some sort. Sometimes as children, the Capricorn ascendant is not as vital, but when they get older, they're very vital, and they usually live a very long time. The old goat syndrome, if you will. And Aquarius, I love the Aquarius. They're very open, very receptive to others. They're very altruistic. They are ruled by the planet Uranus, and at one time, Uranus was discovered in, I want to say 1837, and before that, Aquarius shared the rulership with Saturn. So there's sort of a double-edged Saturn and Uranian energy with an Aquarian ascendant. So the Aquarius person is like the scientist of the zodiac, the really out of the box brilliance, because the Uranian energy, which is the ruler of Aquarius, brings in the unusual and the eccentric. And often you'll find Aquarian people really think outside the box often and may not jive with societal means. They're very outside the box thinkers, and they're the scientists of the zodiac, and they're the engineers of the zodiac. So they all really have broad spectrums, and usually they're helping their fellow man in a large-scale way, because Aquarius also rules large-scale, helpful organizational things. And Pisces, the sign Pisces, again, we're dealing with water, and Pisces on the ascendant, it's interesting, 'cause that's Neptune. So these people can be called dreamers often. They have wonderful imaginations. I think Walt Disney was a Pisces, either a Sag or a Pisces, but I know there was Pisces energy in there with him. And definitely dreamers and wonderful imaginations and great creators. And also they can show you one face and then have another one, similar to the Gemini energy. But Pisces can morph into another identity often. It's kind of a quick and dirty discussion about it, but so we know the ascendant it's the starting place in the zodiac, and it's very important because it's going to tell where all the placements of your planets are in your chart by that first house. Everything else is set up in the zodiac by that.
Yeah, everything falls into place.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. And who knew?
Yeah.
You know, everybody fussed about the sun sign, but the ascendant is
So
very
important.
powerful.
So important, very important, really important. And as I said, it's the person you meet first, and then when you get to know somebody, oh, they're nothing like I expected. They're very different than that first impression, because you get that first impression, which is the ascendant. So I'm going to show you that to protect my sun sign. Very interesting.
You know, it's, and then you add in other things, like what happens when after the ascendant, what happens with the next sign where it falls in.
Very good.
Next thing you know, you have where your finances fall into place,
Exactly.
where your relationships fall into place.
Absolutely.
Each one of those, it's like a domino thing where everything falls into place. And it's not that you're locked into who you are because of when you were born. You know, if you feel like, you know, everything's faded and it isn't. But there is a lot of influence.
Right. The influence, this is just saying the basis of how you would react or act. In other words, say, for example, if you had an Aquarius ascendant, for example, that would put Pisces on your second house, which is the money house. So you may let money wash in or wash out because of the water. You may not see it clearly because the emphasis of Neptune is there. So you need to be really careful with spending, and money could slip through your fingers. It just gives you, this is what you kind of came in with. It doesn't mean that you're always going to have those issues.
No, it doesn't mean that you might not have something else somewhere as far as your education goes in there.
Exactly.
That you can learn to overcome if you're the kind that lets it flow out, and you know you realize it doesn't suit your well-being. You can learn.
Want it to flow in
Yeah.
and stay there. And if you have, I know we've talked about this before, transits, which is where the energy is today, and the transits influence each one of the houses, and the ascendant being a very important place. If you have something going over the ascendant, you're definitely going to feel the energy of whatever that planet is. For example, if we took Saturn, which today is in Sagittarius, so anybody that knows their ascendant, if they know they're a Sagittarius ascendant or a Sagittarius sun sign, when Saturn goes into that first house or conjoins with that ascendant, then the person is going to start looking at the foundation of themselves. What am I doing for health, for taking care of myself, my physical body? So you may start refiguring how if you work out or you don't work out, you may begin to do that. You may restructure your food. You may restructure your physical body in all different ways. And it may put a damper, perhaps, on your outgoing, if you're an outgoing Sagittarius ascendant, with Saturn in the first house or on that ascendant, you may become much more serious and much more business-oriented, or much more working to strive for something that you're seeking or something that you're putting your energy into. Saturn often gets a very bad reputation as being like the grim reaper of the zodiac. But it really isn't. It really helps us to, when you have Saturn go through that first house or on that ascendant, it's going to help you to build a better platform for your personal self, your physical self.
So you have to, it's like, it's a time when it's good to review and restructure and rebuild.
Absolutely, yes it is.
When you're with Saturn.
Absolutely, and Saturn going through the first house may, if you need rest, if you need physical rest, when Saturn hits that first house, you will get the physical rest. Your body will say, I need rest. So oftentimes we need to really listen to ourselves. And when Saturn's there, it's time to rest, recuperate, relax more, not take on big projects and start spending your time, foolishly. You want to time things perfectly and, help yourself with taking care of your physical body. And Saturn will remind you, if you're not paying attention, what you need to do. Now, if Venus, for example, is coming into your first house, you may all of a sudden be very social, because Venus is a very social energy. So you may all of a sudden decide, I want to go out with friends, I want a little romance in my life with Venus, or the money may become more important. And you may start striving to do something to bring more money in with Venus in the first house for yourself personally. So whatever's influencing the energy of that house is going to bring in different flavors, if you will.
I know this is not exactly on the subject, but is there any way to call in some of these energies when we need them?
Most of the time you don't have to call them in, they're there already. By transit, by where the energy is today, they'll be hitting certain places in your chart. And whatever area of your life that energy is in, it's going to highlight.
You're going to feel a need to do something.
Right. Or there could be, there could be catastrophes happening if you're not paying attention. Or like Saturn would be the one that would hold you down until you did everything correctly. You can't move forward until this task is done, because it is the taskmaster. With Uranus, if you had Uranus in your first house, and right now it's in the sign of Aries, so anybody that's Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn is feeling the energy of Uranus, and this is going to come through and disrupt your life. And the reason it's disrupting, and it's clearing the way for new stuff in your life. It's going to razzle things up a bit. And often I tell my clients, go with the flow of the energy. If you feel compelled to do something and it feels right to you, then go ahead and do it. Because Uranus is like a clearinghouse. It's going to come in and disrupt whatever energy needs to be cleared away and restructured. So that will happen oftentimes with Uranus going through the first house.
And we have other signs, other influences on the zodiac and stuff. And then there are astronomical things that go on, that, with lunar eclipses and things like that, that we had enormous energies a few weeks ago.
We did.
With what was either called a pink moon or a red moon, depending upon.
Was it the blood moon?
Oh, the blood moon,
was.
yes.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of different names for it.
Very intense energy.
Very intense energy.
And it lasted more than a week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, we always get a new and full moon every month. And again, the new and full moon is going to affect people personally, depending on where it falls in your chart. For example, we just had a new moon in the sign of Taurus. I think it was yesterday.
Yes.
And the new moon energy is always good for making projection or making your intention for the next 2 weeks ahead. You make your intention in the new moon, and in the full moon it comes to fruition. So for anybody that was thinking of doing something with Taurus new moon, it would be excellent for planting seeds for gathering more money and more value of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's good to know.
It is.
It's a good time for planting seeds, but the financial
Planting them.
planting the financial seeds
Exactly.
is an entirely different
Exactly.
idea. Yeah, or
Yeah.
even it's a good time to plant romantic seeds by going out and doing the things you like to do, and hopefully meeting someone who likes to do the same things.
Absolutely. Very important. Astrology's got a really, and you can, as you said, if you know the energy is going to be there, and you need to be cautious of the energy, or you need to work with it. For example, right now, Jupiter is in the sign of Leo, so Sagittarius and Aries and Leo people are really having a great time. Everything's just falling into place for them. Be right place, right time, automatically good things happen. It's a planet of abundance. So it's wonderful, and I'm looking forward in August 10th when it goes into Virgo, because I'm a Capricorn and I have a Virgo ascendant, so I'm going to reap the benefits of that. So the Earth people are going to be have a good year coming after August.
Yeah. Yes. Now, some of these signs, when they're in your they persist a long time.
Some do, Josie, absolutely. For example, Uranus stays in a sign for 7 years. And we've had a lot of issues with, because Uranus has been squaring Pluto and at the same time squaring Jupiter. No, trining Jupiter, sorry. Well, squaring Pluto, squaring the moon, and just causing havoc, emotional havoc, causing lots of push and pulling. And a lot of times, because Pluto holds sort of the energy of the underworld, if you will, when Uranus makes contact with it, everything comes to the surface. And it erupts what needs to be cleared. And you may not like the eruption sometimes, but in the end, you'll be free and clear of whatever.
Yeah.
That's a 7-year cycle.
Yeah, that's.
And it's a disruptive one.
That's the one that I was thinking of that is the most demanding.
It's been raising a lot of cane with us recently. Now, Neptune stays in a sign 14 years. And that's the time when we can get into the dream state. Our psychic abilities get really enhanced then. And it's really wonderful for healing and healing work with the Neptune energy.
Well, that sounds like something to look forward
Yeah,
to.
definitely.
When is that coming?
Neptune currently is in Pisces in its own sign, which is fabulous. And it's about 9 degrees. So all the Pisces people, all the Cancers, the water people are getting the benefit of that. As are, if you're 2 signs away, which would be Taurus and Capricorn, are getting the benefits of the Neptune.
Does that
as well.
apply to if you have a water sign in your ascendant?
Yes.
It works for
Yep.
not just the sun sign, but also
Right.
the ascendant.
Exactly. Works with any planet that would be in water, or any cusp houses that would have water.
Well, we have only a few minutes left, so I want to thank you.
Well, thank you so
and
much.
I want to thank Sherry for joining us. Patricia, if somebody wants to reach you, how can they reach you?
I could give out, I don't have a website, unfortunately.
No, just give
Your email.
My
your
email.
email.
It's mamapat, MAMAPAT, SM@AOL.com.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank
And
you, ladies.
Thank you so much for being with us.
pleasure.
We will have you back.
Thank
I
you.
want to know more about the moon.
Oh, all right.
It was interesting to learn about the ascending sign.
Yes.
Wonderful to learn your ascendant.
And thank you so very much for joining us. Please come back and see us again. And now we'll continue chatting while you are finishing the show.
So Cancer is a wonderful healer, too.